Calling all beings, y'all. Let's get it.
Put your hands together. Put your hands together.
Yeah! Woo! Welcome back to Calling All Beings on a True Crime Saturday. This is Calling All Beings True Crime Unsolved. I'm your host, DJ, but guess what, baby? We done solved this crime because my guest that we're going to talk to tonight and his colleagues, both male, female, all over the Massachusetts area done solved this thing because you got all these people doing all these guilty things. Brian, Jen, the other Brian, who Sean affectionately calls Lardass, all the different police officers, all the different cover-ups, the planting of evidence, not trying to get any kind of ring camera video that might show what actually happened that night. I hope y'all are sleeping well. But my next guest and all of his colleagues have figured out what happened, and they're about to bring it to you tonight. This man right here is a former educator, a standout wrestler, and a former head high school wrestling coach. Apparently, he booked bands for venues. So I'm going to say he must be some sort of band manager. We're about to find that out. He's a fearless. And when I say that, I want you to think Turtle Boy. I want you to think Rita Lombardi. I want you to think Nurse Kim. Fearless advocate for justice. He's a journalist. He's been extremely successful in pushing initiatives forth in his state. He is the North Shore's own. Party people, put those hands together for the host of the Young Jerks, Mike Crawford.
Wow.
Can I get a amen? Yeah.
You're amazing. Thank you, DJ. That was wow.
My wrestling brother.
Do you like wrestling? Like pro wrestling?
Yes.
You're a
Not
hype
pro
man.
wrestling, but I follow grappling, like jiu-jitsu, like submission grappling, and I wrestled, and I went to Brazil, learned jiu-jitsu there, and then have been at like 5 different jiu-jitsu academies.
So you like the kind of wrestling that I actually kind of did, but
yes,
I was thinking more like the pro wrestling for you because you are like you could be my manager. You're like the hype man. You're the corner guy. You're like Brock Lesnar would need you or whoever. Not Brock anymore. He's done. But whoever it is that's not good at the mic, that's a big star, they could use you.
I just love people, and to me, it's a blessing when someone says, I'm willing to give of my time to come on your show and talk to you. And I want you to know that from the second the show starts until it ends. And that's why I do that. It's not to act like I'm, one of the 80s pro wrestling managers or to feign that I'm sort of a pro wrestling manager. It's really just a genuine outpouring of emotion and how I feel about my guests that are willing to do this. And because you do this.
Yeah, it's hard. It's not the easiest thing to do, definitely. I think you do a good job. I just it makes me almost feel like, wow, I should be doing more for my guests to hype them up. But I don't have that style. I can't do that. I do it my way.
The other thing I do, Mike, I started both these things in my 40s. I started jiu-jitsu. I was a training partner for MMA guys in the Air Force and was terrible, but it just needed somebody to coach and to get beat up by, basically. So I did that role, and then I figured BJJ was something I could get into. Simultaneously, I got into yoga, fell in love with it, and have been doing it ever since. I've been teaching for 5 or 6 years. And the key to being a yoga teacher is the same key that you use when you were a teacher, that when you were a wrestling coach. You didn't try to mimic what somebody else did. Authenticity is what it is. It's all about people saying, this is the authentic Mike, and I want to talk to that guy. I was watching you when I first started watching the trial and was like, I want to talk to that guy. I want to talk to you. And it just so happened the first guy I got a hold of was Sean. But it's authenticity, and I'm sure that that's how I connected with you as a content creator, as someone who loves music and all that. And I think that's how your guest content, how they connect with you.
Yeah, I feel good about that now. I think the tough thing maybe for some creators, you might not know who you are. Like that I think what you said when as a teacher, when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
when I was my first school teacher right out of college, I was not a good teacher. And it was just because I didn't even know who the hell I was.
Right.
I was probably a pretty good coach to a degree because the kids wanted me to be there more. But like to be a school teacher, you have to
Very difficult.
really engage those kids. And I don't think I had it back then. Like now I feel at a certain age where I feel like I know who I am. So it's easy for me just to be me. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes younger people just need to let things happen, and I look at all the ups and downs, all the jobs and free things I did. Like, thank God I did all those things. Like you talked about the shows, I probably did 100 shows. I'd say half of those were benefits. Like none of that was really none of that. I basically started managing a band, a local band. I worked at Fidelity. The kid I was in a class with was in a band. He knew I knew people from my, waiting and bartending, going to clubs and shit that I knew people. So he just said, "Hey, dude, can you book my band some shows?" And next thing you know, I was like, a manager of a band that was not going to make any money, but we did a lot of big shit. And I ended up booking a lot of festivals later, and even like booked this big festival every year called the Boston Freedom Rally. It's coming up in September. It's the Hemp Fest. It's the biggest hemp fest on the East Coast. And during its like peak years, really when it busted out, I booked for like 10 years, like all their bands and did all their fundraising. And so that's really where I never made any money at it, and a lot of people were like, "Why are you spending all this time on this cause?" And it was good for me. It was like it's like a real college. Like I went to college, Bridgewater State. I think I got more of a college education doing that 10 years of advocacy, booking bands, speaking to the press. I did tons of interviews for Maskin. I met a lot of politicians. I brought like basically music and politics together for cannabis. Basically, that was like my role, and I learned so much. So I think for people, if you're wondering if you're chasing a passion and it's not like earning money, don't worry about that.
That's right.
Just chase that passion. You don't know where it's going to go. If you're excited about something, chase it, do it. Like, follow your activism, your art, whatever it is, do that thing. You still, earn a living, but still, do that. Cause I thank God I did all that stuff. It gave me such a kind of wide breadth of experience and education and the network and knowing how things work, especially.
And I think I think we shouldn't undervalue your formal education either, because there are, as you say, there's so many things you can learn in life just by being around different groups of people and assessing what's happened and seeing what you did well, where you made mistakes. But also, I tell people when I retired from the Air Force, I retired as a master sergeant, and all I had was an associate's. And I had a supervisor when I was a contractor, government contractor. He's like, "You don't have a degree?" I was like, "No, I have an associate." He goes, "Man, go take a class. Just go take a class and just take one. And if you need time at work to do it, and we got time, well, that kind of thing." Well, the next couple of high-profile jobs I would not have got without that. So there are multiple types of education you can get, but and I want to tell people in the chat, I want to say hello to all y'all. Welcome everybody. We're about to get into true crime, but I want to ask Mike one very important question first that I've been wondering about since I've been watching him as a content creator. And so let me get into that, and then we're gonna dive right into it. So Mike, what are your top 4 favorite bands if you could make a Mount Rushmore, a Washington, a Jefferson, a Roosevelt, and a Lincoln? Who would be in those 4 positions, sir?
That's gonna be very difficult.
I mean, right off the cuff. You know what I mean?
Are we talking rock bands or just music in general?
I mean, I don't want to limit you. I mean, I like to think of it in terms of influential,
Yeah.
because
I
some
would say
people can.
influential would be Nirvana and Pearl Jam would definitely be in there.
Wow. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that would be like somewhere in there. Probably like the Clash, Bob Marley,
Wow. Oh,
Tracy
wow.
Chapman,
Really?
Terminology.
Hmm.
Do you know
I haven't heard.
Terminology?
I have not. No.
Maybe Graveyard Barbecue. These are bands. Some of the bands I booked actually hip hop. Terminology is he's on this guy who does a content creator named JFK Show Off. He's
Oh, I just
a
connected with him
music label.
today.
Yeah, it's one of his big artists basically on Show Off
Wow.
Records with Static Selector as Terminology. I'd say Rage Against the Machine. Like yeah.
I dig it. Okay, so the top four, we had Nirvana, we have Pearl Jam, we have Bob Marley, which is, when I did my top four, I didn't even think of Bob, and I'm such a huge fan of his, and I know his entire story, and I'm a big fan of reggae. I have other
I'd
reggae
say number
artists,
4 we'll say Tracy Chapman. That would be
and Tracy Chapman. That
that's
is
not
brilliant.
really the top four because I would have like 500. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
especially the
No.
locals. I mean, like even like Jay Giles. You know Jay Giles band?
Yes, of course. Of
I
course.
met Peter Wolf one night. This guy Asa Brebna. I love Asa. Asa passed away a few years ago. He's a friend who somebody grew up with my girlfriend. He's a great artist, like unbelievable musician, and just a wicked nice guy. I love that guy. And he would always play around town, do art exhibits, and like his art, like he was a musician. He was known for playing guitar. He was in some signed national bands at one point, but he also did art that he put on the wall and sell. And Jeff Beck bought one of his art pieces, and
Wow.
Peter Wolf used to show up. And Peter Wolf would buy some of his art too, and I think he did some shows with him. And for some reason, Asa just looked at me because we were, at Asa's art show, and he said, "Peter, I want you to meet Mike." And I'm just like, because like that's like the first freaking band, Freeze Frame. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And here I am meeting this guy, and I've met a lot of famous people over the years, but like Peter Wolf, just like one of the first rock bands ever for me. And it's just like he looks at me and said, "I'll never remember you, remember your name." Like he's like, "Don't get mad." And I said, "I don't care, dude. I don't."
It's all good. It's all good. Man.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm shaking your hand, dude. And Asa introduced me, by the way. So like that. So there you go.
Does your love run cold like Jay Giles band? Isn't that from Jay Giles?
I don't know. Probably maybe. Yeah.
My love runs cold.
Yeah.
My
Your
memory has just been sold. Yeah. Angel is a centerfold. Yeah, that's a great one. I can remember roller skating to that in like, I don't know, 9th grade or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we're dating ourselves here. Mike and I was 80s guys.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. So you were at the standout today. I typically don't talk a lot about them on air because it's really best if you're there and you see it. But if you guys go on the Young Jerks YouTube, you can see Mike. You can see my homegirl, Suzanne, who's going to be on next week. You can see Peter Maffey. And who else? Oh, and as Kim would say, Rita Lombardi. So I definitely want to have her on the show at some point. She's such a great orator. But Mike, where is your focus right now? Because you're tracking at least 2 cases right now. We've just had an arrest in Matthew Farwell in the one. And in Karen Reed, it seems to be there's so many different little nuggets that people are bringing out that they're just going back over the trial and finding little inconsistencies and incongruities in what people said. So where's your focus right now?
Definitely those 2. And then the third one is Turtle Boy, because that's a trial too. And just the local stuff that's going on. I mean, for me, I've always been in the local politics and local activism. I always felt like, with my show and just my activism over the years, it's always been like, let's do something local, fix things locally, and then people will see it and want to do it nationally, like the cannabis thing. Like Massachusetts was the first one on the East Coast basically to legalize, So as soon as that happened, it was like a domino. And so I feel like the same thing with what we do now is we're looking at Canton, we're looking at the Mass State Police, we're looking at Morrissey, we're looking at the governor, and we're looking at corruption, even going back to a state senator named Brian Joyce. There's a lot of different
Wow.
threads here. And it's
Yes.
even tough for me to even like keep up with what Sean says, because Sean, we don't know, like
Fine.
Sean is the wild card. He's got so much going on, and a lot of it is gonna pan out. So but it's hard to know like what to even, so there's so much to kind of keep up with. I feel like, for me, this week I said I was going to take a break and go on vacation, and I didn't. I ended up doing another show with Better after I said that, and
Yeah.
I did the standout today in Canton, and I'm doing your show tonight. But for me, I'm almost saying I'm going to try to slow down, but there's still a lot to focus on. So I mean, it's just never ending. And the thing about the corruption, like you talked about the colleagues earlier solve the case. I feel like that on this. Like for me, I've been covering this. I'm like an OG on it almost. I've been covering it for like a year and a half, maybe a little less than that. But I wasn't like the first one. It's obviously Turtle Boy has broken, I think, the most on this story by far. And Kirk Minihane and the cold case. I forget what the case podcast.
The case.
They
Mm-hmm.
on Sandra Birchmore, which is the first real coverage of it, like deep. I actually covered it a little before that, but it was like an interview with somebody. It wasn't what they did. They really did a comprehensive thing on it. So those two really broke the story. There are other stories I've covered, like the death of Lord McMurray, where I was the one who broke it open, and there's stuff happening even this week that people are taking credit for of my coverage. Like someone got fired at the Cannabis Control Commission because of me, basically, because I exposed them. I stopped even covering that stuff because I am so like stuff that I actually was the main lead on, because I know it's kind of over. It's like, let the government, and let other people take credit for it. That's fine. Because I'm on just this big, I feel like supporting what we do is I'm supporting what Turtle Boy's doing, and I'm supporting him in court, the coverage. And I'm also supporting, what other content creators are doing, and having the attorney Better Rohan. Like,
it's amazing. He's so giving of his time. A guy that owns a huge law firm.
So for me, it's like I just play my part on this, and I feel like it's perfect. Like I don't have like I've been the lead on some stories, and it's not easy. Like I feel like people don't understand what somebody like Turtle Boy is probably going through on this. Like I can't imagine, because I felt, I got this duck today. Somebody gave me a duck.
Woo!
Yeah. And this person has been handing out ducks all over Canton. And because he's been handing out ducks, Sergeant from the Mass State Police, Tully, showed up with 2 search warrants at their house and did searches of this person's vehicles and businesses and all this other crap. And the reason why is because they're saying that this person handed out ducks is littering. They're saying it's litter. And they're also saying that it's witness intimidation. And I said, what was the real reason? Why did they want to? I asked this person, because they handed me the duck today, and they told me their story. And I said, what was the reason? Why were they coming after you for witness intimidation? And he said to me exactly the same thing that they were coming at me about. And they want this person to like basically make up a story against Turtle Boy. They didn't say that they wanted to make up a story, but that's what it would have to be, because this person hasn't been directed by Turtle Boy. But that's what they want. They want to basically scare somebody into saying Turtle Boy made me hand out the ducks. So I mean, that's where we're at in Massachusetts. So that's why I'm covering it. It's like, this is so easy for us to continue to cover, because of what they're actually doing to citizens, like average people. They're doing this all the time. They're showing up at people's houses. There's videos of it. They showed up at this woman's house recently, a Buchanan. She took video of it.
I saw that. It was brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. Get off my property.
And I'm just waiting for them to come at my house, because they keep telling me they're coming to my house. They keep coming at me, and it's just like, for what? Because I responded to some idiot on Twitter that bashed me, and I can't respond back and tell the truth about them. You gonna come at me for that? Like, really? Like that's where we're at. They're trying to silence people with these visits by law enforcement. And I just wonder when the feds or the governor is going to stop this crap. Like this guy handed out ducks,
And got,
and
yeah.
he's got state police showing up at his house because he handed out ducks, rubber ducks. They say that's witness intimidation.
I think that's something the governor should be aware of, is those kinds of idiotic things. And I do want to talk about Turtle Boy. I want to show some love to Please Pass the Peppa. I too have been waiting for this collab as well to get Mike on here, and it took me a while, so I'm very gratified that he's here. And Romy, absolutely, what the duck is going on here? I mean, we approach this with levity, but it really is not a light topic. And the reason why is that, let's say, for example, you were John O'Keefe's roommate, and you were, some guy that he knew at college. Perhaps you were a person around his age, a person of color, and you were out at the bar that night, and you had dropped him off at that home and really didn't want to go there. And then had a situation where you waited 10 minutes to go, yo, bro, text me when you need a ride home, because I want to go home and go to bed. This could have been, in the right situation, it would have been difficult. This could have been that person, which means it could have been Mike, it could have been me, it could have been anybody who was on the opposite side. And I know you guys have heard that a lot, but I think we need to take stock in that and imagine that you're getting a knock at your door for something, and you're like, I dropped him off there last night. Surely that camera with the police lieutenant across the street would have shown that, right? And Turtle Boy himself, a man of uncommon valor, and I'm saying that as a person who's had like 12 deployments overseas to Iraq, Afghanistan, and other places. And when I look at what this guy Turtle Boy does, who I'm a political standpoint, like Mike, I patently disagree with the guy. He's a man of uncommon valor, and I support him, and to Turtle Boy. And that's what this is about. It's about people coming together because we see something that's so bad that it could have been any one of us. It could be your uncle. It could be your aunt, your niece, your nephew, your brother, your sister. It could be you. So, Drew, so let me answer a couple of questions here. What is CAB? Calling all beings, and this will go into kind of just a little bit of historical that Mike might not know. Calling all beings is CAB, and we were, for the past I've been a content creator for 14 years, starting out with MMA and UFC, and then, like Mike, going out to events and interviewing fighters and all that stuff. And then we started in UFOs 3 years ago and did Bigfoot and paranormal. And I decided that I wanted to do true crime because I wanted to do something that could make a difference in someone's life. And one of our members of CAB, we have 4 of us, myself, Nathan, Deb, and Courtney. She went to Pennsylvania and investigated a missing person named Shelva Rafty, a single mom who's been missing since 2006. At that time, when she was literally in Pennsylvania and pretty much got chased out of there because she got word that she was in danger, and maybe there's some police that work at the DA's office that weren't doing anything on the case. That sound familiar? So she beat feet. She grew up 25 miles from there, and therefore she didn't want to draw attention to her family that could put them in danger. She lives in like Alaska and Montana. She has two homes. In any case, that's when I discovered Mike. That's when I discovered Turtle Boy, maybe on M. William Phelps' podcast when Turtle Boy was on there. That's when I discovered Karen Reed. And so we put the whole podcast we were going to do about Shelva Rafty on hold, and I began covering Karen Reed. And that was, during the trial, in the waning month of the trial, let's say. So anyway, that to answer you guys in the chat, that's how we became... Calling All Beings True Crime Unsolved started before I was aware of Karen Reed, but then Karen Reed and Sandra Birchmore took over Calling All Beings True Crime Unsolved. So No particular question there, Mike, but I don't know if you want to react to that.
It's funny how many shows got taken over by Karen Reed and sort of Sandra Birchmore. My show being one of them. I mean, it gave me something to cover. I mean, for me, after Lorna McMurray, I covered it for so long, it just drove it to the ground. I was going crazy because things weren't happening quick enough, and it was like a mental thank you. Give me this Karen Reed. Like, but now it's just like the same thing. It's like how long are we going to go on with this? How much longer? With Sandra, we feel like we're going to get some justice now, but with Karen Reed, it's like how long will we ever get justice on this?
Haas long till we get justice. I think it's of an egregious nature. I mean, I think we draw joint inspiration. I suspect, and I'm speaking for you, so forgive me. I think you're inspired by Bettero, by what the amount of hours that he's putting into appearing, because he's holding it back, but inside he's really enraged. You know, I don't know if this is because I went to college in Massachusetts, and I went to Dean College. A lot of people know that. All my teammates, a bunch of them are police officers, because I was a law enforcement major. I'm very passionate about Massachusetts, and I'm inspired not only by the plight of Sandra and Karen, which is the most egregious, enraging thing, but it comes from a different place than me being inspired by Rita and Turtle Boy and Kim and Dave and Mazza Media, Mark and all. And when I say Mark, I mean Mark Mazza and all of you and JFK, doing it in his way, in a totally different way. Who I've contacted him to get him on there. Hey, what's up, hair? That's what I'm saying, man. Mike has hair, Mazza, my brother, and to me, it's another source of inspiration beyond the other things we have in common. So anyway, are you are you inspired, by these other content creators? Obviously, Turtle Boy, you've espoused definitely.
Oh, huge, yeah. I would say, I mean, I've been inspired by it. So many. One of the things you said, music. I just thought of one that I should have definitely been on my top 5 by far. Tupac.
Oh, wow, awesome! Yeah. He is so popular in the.
You know what I mean? My list would be way too long. I love Tupac. Well, yeah,
dude, I love it, man. I need to see like your list. Maybe I should be following you on Spotify because I love all. I have hip hop as well on mine. I'm trying to think of that Queens rapper that I have that I was listening to the other day that also has a song called One Love, like Bob Marley. So yeah, I love all different kinds of music. I was listening to the Fugees yesterday, and they have a song
I like them. I like Lauryn Hill.
So good,
of course.
Man.
Yeah,
she's brilliant, man. You and I could probably do. I think we could do one just on music, and it seems like the audience is down for it because they were all talking about their favorite bands in the chat, which was really cool. And one story I want to tell you real quick. So at Dean, I was a walk-on for the football team. I told you I was a scrub wrestler. I was also a scrub football player. So I walked on at Dean. By the way, never played a down of football in my entire life until I suited up, terrified at Dean. But I told them I had. So he said, you could try out. It's 2-week tryout, see if you make it. So 4 of us made it out of about 8 or 10 that tried out. In any case, one of my teammates and I, Steve Levasseur, native of Massachusetts, who I got in a fight with at practice, wanted to mea culpa and said, hey, Kazoo, which is my nickname at Dean, you want to go to Motley Crue with me? I got tickets. So we go to the Worcester Centrum. He didn't know anything about Motley Crue. I loved Motley Crue. Had seen them like.
I met Vince Neil one night. He was waiting. Oh! I got a crazy Vince story, but that'll be too much.
The legend. Well, hey man.
At MTV, I had a night at MTV basically at spring break. Yeah.
Oh
I met them all. I met a bunch of people. But
so
go ahead.
I
think I got into the Motley Crue story though.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Oh, no. It just the real quick story. So we went to the Worcester Centrum. We watched the show. He made his way to the front and then came back and said, Kazoo, I got a backstage pass. Do you mind if I go? Okay. He left me. Yeah, I know. That's Julie said. He left me sitting in the parking lot for hours.
I wonder what that backstage was like. I bet that was just insane.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good looking guy. His nickname at Dean was GQ, Steve Levasseur. I don't know where you are, but I hope you're at the reunion in October. I'm coming to the Dean reunion for homecoming, October 25th through the 27th. For any of you that are around, I
I
will be
bet
there.
I've been to a lot of backstages. Usually it's boring, but I imagine Motley Crue back then must have been fun.
Oh my God, 1985.
Yeah, it must
Yeah,
have been
it was
wild.
Theater of Pain tour.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I got some other
Um,
artists too that
sure. Go ahead,
Styles
man.
P. These are artists I booked that I love. Styles
Styles
P. Know him?
Styles P. Yep.
I had a day with him. I brought him to the Freedom Rally. I smoked up some trees with Styles and got him on
Woo!
stage, and I made that happen. Me and the guy from G Unit basically made that happen. That was awesome with Styles P. And Tree's another great band I love too. So many bands. If you ask me content creators, I definitely am inspired. Like number one, obviously Turtle Boy, big time. Mazza Media, definitely. Like he
Oh,
kept me going when I was down. So I'm very thankful for him. Sean
he's awesome.
McDonough's another one, big time. Like he kept me
Yeah.
going. Like these guys like helped me when I was going through tough times. And especially like the guests that we have on. Like that's the
Yeah.
big like I watch other shows, I like other shows, I like to see JFK doing well, and I support all those other shows. I watch them as much as I can. But the thing that gets like me inspired the most is really two things. It's the guest, the guests that come on and who we can feature and how like a lot of times we'll feature somebody and kind of make them like a little star and then next thing you know they're on everybody else's show. Like people sometimes our fans get a little like weird about it. They're like,
Hmm.
hey, that's Mike's guest. Don't it's but it's kind of the goal. Like you kind of want
Right.
to
Yeah.
you
No. Yeah.
want to like Bettero came on like 6, 7, 8 times, I think, before anyone realized the numbers we were getting from him. And then he was on everybody else's show. And that's like the best thing ever. Like I used to write for like 10 years for Dick Boston. That was always the goal there too. It's like you want the Boston Globe to actually rip off your story. Like that's the end game. That's what you want. So I love it. I love to see, and sometimes I do the same thing to them. Like if I see somebody that's great on one of the other shows,
Hmm.
I might be like, hey, they need to come. And a lot of times it's the fans too, the supporters.
Yeah.
They tell us like the Las Vegas cops. They kept telling us for weeks and weeks, you got to have them on the show. And then we
Yeah.
had them on the
They're
show, and they
brilliant.
were great. So like
They're
the
great.
fans are the other thing. Like the people watching, I met so many of them today. They are great. Like they even today they were telling me stuff I covered a month or 2 months ago. They were like, you got to get back into that Brian Joyce stuff. You're right. Like these local Canton people, that's where the locals. I love meeting and hearing from all the locals that are watching and supporting and giving information and giving advice, giving information and financial support to us too. Like everything that they do, and it's so great to hear about them. Talk to them in my chat. I love doing that, but it's also great like today where we got to talk to a bunch of them. Mazza and I and a bunch of other people. Rita, Peter Murphy was there. It was a great day today.
I wish I was there. I hope to get to see some of you when I come for the Dean reunion if I'm so lucky. Um, yeah, I was gonna say is that you've been doing this. Well, first of all, I want to say I blocked one person. So you mods out there, if you see anybody talk crap about my guest, Mike Crawford, they immediately are banned. I don't. There's no second
Well,
chances.
what's going
So
on? I don't
I don't
mind.
know. No,
Was it a
no,
troll or
no.
was it a?
It was a troll. It was a
All
troll.
right, I
It was a
know.
troll. And my new mod is in here, Miss Jessica NB. I don't see her wrench. Jessica, where is your wrench? But you guys will see her on an upcoming episode. She is also a mod for Miss Shorty, and you will see her coming up soon. Where is DJ from? Okay, I am from. Hi, Jessica. Where's your wrench? So who is that? Where's DJ from? That's Steph Annie. Steph. I am from the Hudson Valley of New York, Hendrick Hudson High School, which is adjacent to Peekskill, New York. Peekskill is kind of the bigger town, and my town borders Peekskill, and it's kind of I'm kind of from both, but I'm a Hendrick Hudson graduate, and I also get together with my high school classmates 2 times a year. So summer and winter. Although I moved to Colorado, so this summer, as you know, Mike. So I didn't get to the summer iteration, but I will be there for the winter. So anyway, that's where I'm from. So both of us over a decade in this, and the friends that you make are what is it. It really is a huge part of it. It's not that someone's from Yorktown. Oh my God, hi from Yorktown Heights. Hi, Stace. That's very close. Also, I guess the politician, what's her name? Ocasio-Cortez. She also is from
AOC.
Yorktown Heights. Very close, yeah. And someone
I love
mentioned,
AOC.
yeah, she's lovely. Lovely.
That may be
lovely
controversial to say tonight. People don't like when I mention politics.
Well, she was in on the UFO hearings where they brought in David Grush, the Air Force,
I saw
and
those hearings.
the GS-15, David Fravor and Ryan Graves, and there were Republicans and Democrats on that panel. You had Matt Gaetz.
Luna.
You had, Representative Luna, and then you had AOC and Jared Moskowitz, and Nancy Mace from South Carolina. That was very, very eye-opening in terms of UFOs, but we're here to talk about true crime tonight. So we're not
no UFOs tonight.
So no UFOs.
That shit is
tonight.
interesting, though. I mean, when you have like real serious people like David Grush coming out, it's like, wow, something is going on. Like the military knows something's up, something weird.
Real quick about David Grush. David Grush, his education was paid for by the Air Force as a result of his he was a physics major, and when he got in the Air Force, they made him an intel guy. He got to the level, David Grush, where he left the Air Force active duty, joined the reserves. He worked for the NRO, the National Reconnaissance Office, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, and then he was handpicked for the UAP task force as another third duty. He hand carried intel into the president. So if you got to know what kind of tickets you need in terms of TSSCI with polygraph, he is as highly cleared as there is.
I mean, do you think it's weird? Like the whole thing about this with David Grush, the UAP thing, like basically the government hired this guy to basically find out if there's like UFOs going on. And he basically came back and said, yeah, there's some secret shit that's being covered up. And he like told the truth, but like, nobody's talking about it. Like the only one that I saw talking about it is News Nation. Like you don't see it on. Like you would think this would be like part of the election right now. Like basically, like the top government guy that they hired to look into UFOs has come out and said something's up. The government's covering it up with this private, contractors, and we know that something's going on. They have all this shit, but it's not on the news. Like nobody, even our show. Like I would probably be talking about this much more if we weren't doing the Karen Reed, actually, because I find it fascinating, actually, that there's no coverage. You don't see anyone covering it.
And they do, if you listen, and I'll send you the Ross Coulthart, the 40-minute initial interview.
I watched him. He's great.
He said it's a 70-year campaign to disenfranchise the American people of this information. But David Grush,
he's great. We need I don't understand why every network doesn't have a Ross Coulthart. You know what I mean? Like that's just what I have. Like where are the rest of them?
He's brilliant.
Yeah.
There are more, but they're not. They weren't on the Australian version of 60 Minutes. He's one. I mean, the New York Times, Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal are the ones who broke this story in 2017. But Dave Grush had to file. He basically had to hire an Alan Jackson to defend himself again. He made an IG complaint, and he hired a former IG. I think his name is Rose from the Rose Law Firm. I'm trying to remember what his lawyer's name. But anyway, he hired a guy who was a former IG as his lawyer to defend him because they were trying to attack him personally, his clearance, all these kinds of things. And you and I'll have a dialogue with you offline because I know a lot of the people here are not into UFOs and all that stuff. But there's no question that there is a conspiracy to keep that information and what we've gleaned from crashes that have happened. What ended up happening with Dave, real quickly, Mike, is that when he was on the UAP task force, he was not read into all these crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs. When people found out that he was on that task force, he had people start to contact him that he knew that were read into these programs and saying, dude, there's stuff going on here that you need to know about, stuff that's being funded that the American people don't know about, and it's not right. He interviewed 40 witnesses over 4 years that told him the same stories, and many of them do not know each other. Some of them he knew that, but didn't know they were in these programs. Others he didn't know. When he tried to get access to these programs, because he had his clearance is high enough to be read into any program, they said, and he was administratively assaulted. So we won't go more on UFOs here, but that gives you just a little taste, and it smells very much like what's happening to Turtle Boy and in Canton, and with Karen Reed and Sandra Birchmore, and the cover up. It's just on a grander scale.
Sure is.
And by better actors, smarter actors than
many
these
more
idiots.
years. Like you said, 70, 80 years. That's a long time.
Yes, and it's a conversation you and I can have, and maybe we can do a future episode where we tell people that's what we're going to talk about, so they don't come here for Karen Reed and Sandra Birchmore, and we inundate them with UFOs. John Fan, Kevin Clapp. So, calling all beings. I'll message you about my wrench. Miss Shorty had to fix mine in her chat. Copy. Okay, yeah, I got. I'm not very educated, Jessica. I can tell you that. Mike is more educated than I am. He was a teacher. This is what we do for teachers. Amen. So
not for me. I wasn't. Yeah, I'd say the people who stick there for 10 or 20, 30 years, that they are
heroes.
Deserve the AM.
Heroes. When I had dinner with my high school wrestling coach and teacher. He was my homeroom teacher and wrestling coach last year, and I don't know if I would have been in this place in my career, in my life, if it weren't for guys like him dealing with meatheads that didn't do academics. And I don't think I would have gotten into college and all the things. The day I got into college to Dean, which was a junior college, Mike, I was literally doing cartwheels down the hall of high school because I don't know if anybody else accepted me. And I was like, oh my God, meathead special ed DJ is going to be going to college. So anyway.
Great.
Yes.
I feel the same way with my wrestling coach too. Like, it's funny. He gave me confidence. Like in to kind of like figure out what life's about too, like the winning and losing and handling it, and like you're not going to win it no matter how good you are. Like I think even Dan Gable, the greatest wrestler of all time, lost. So you gotta learn how to lose and come back. Like that's the thing in life, and not no shortcuts. You gotta stick it through, but you don't have to be nasty though. Like my coach was great. I love my coach. My coach was like I just love my coach. His name's Con Madigan. I had a couple of great coaches. Also, this guy Von Hain. Von Hain was probably the best high school wrestler ever out of Massachusetts. He was like our assistant coach one year, my senior year. Also, the guy Ted Curley. All these guys were like Ted Curley and Con Madigan were like Division I wrestlers at UNH, University of New Hampshire.
Of course.
And, Von Hain, like I said, was pretty much the greatest 4-time state champ out of Massachusetts. Like, they still talk about him. So those guys, like, changed my life. Like, I wouldn't have gone to college because I wanted to go to college just to wrestle. Like, and I had the SAT scores. I didn't have the grades because I never applied myself at all at high school. Like, I was the biggest dink. Like, I was pretty much a loose, like, underachiever. That's what they always called me. But I had issues too, like a lot of,
Me too.
my thing is mentality. That's the big thing, and heart and all that. And those guys gave it. Like when you have someone like that who invests in you and believes in you as a 15, 16, 17-year-old, it makes a huge difference. So I just I think school teachers deserve every dollar they get. Like I know that people complain and they deserve way more.
Every
the reason
penny,
is
man.
we need like those guys I just mentioned. Same with me. Like we went into other places. Like the system couldn't afford to keep those guys as wrestling coaches. Do you know what I mean? Like they found real careers to go into, unfortunately.
Because there's not enough money.
Yeah, there's not enough money. So for me, I'm always like, pay these teachers and the coaches more so we get the best, because having the best really does make a difference. Like when I had those 3 guys I talked about, like that made a huge difference to us as kids.
They should be paid commensurate with their responsibility. And for the audience that does, some of the UFO audience doesn't know this, but my wrestling coach also. So there was a special ed program. He started it. He was the first one in my high school, and I was one of his students in there. So I went from special ed to special ops, through him, then going out for wrestling. Said, well, shoot, if I did wrestling and I've never done that before, I should be able to play football. I've never done football, and I would have never had the confidence to do that, or going in the Air Force and then going into special ops. All that started back then because I had the confidence. If I could do one, I could do the other.
Yeah. If you could do that, you could do that. It's
right.
It's as simple as that.
Half my career in special ops, I owe that all to that teacher and to my classmates who gave me the confidence. And anyway, we do have a guest here who asked this. This is Sherry D, and I will ask Mike this question: do we want to share thoughts on Sandra B's lead investigator, John Fanning, the Young Jerks and DJ? So Fanning, give me your thoughts on him and that amazing and insightful investigation he did that came up with the answer they wanted that was completely false.
I mean, I think that's it. Sandra Birchmore, he blew that case. And he defended it. I know when he talked to Mizzy, he told her, he felt a certain way, so he blew that case. And the fact that he was apparently the person that transported the jurors for the Karen Reed case.
Is that true? Can we confirm that? Have you confirmed that?
I haven't heard anyone disclaim it. As far as I know, that is 100% true. So, I mean, it's something not right there. I don't trust that guy. I think that John Fanning is under him. If I was him, I'd be shitting a brick. And if he knows anything, he better talk to the FBI, real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think all of these guys, anyone who's associated with that Norfolk County State Police Unit, and we're talking about Fanning, Buconic, Brian Tully, Guarino, all those guys. I don't trust any of them. And I think there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where they end up. If they're federal witnesses, what? I don't know. I mean, that's the wild card, right? What are the feds? Are they going to use these state police guys? I don't know. I don't know how that works. I don't know if they're going to bring them in and have them as witnesses, or if the feds are going to be going after them. I don't know. This is going to be interesting to see how far do the feds go.
I've said the same thing about to Jen McCobb, who's someone in the chat named one time. She spelled the CABRE, McCobb, and I said, go in, be the first one in. Don't get arrested in a parking lot with one of your children like Matt Farwell. Go in, tell them what you know, get a reduced sentence, because if they come to you and you don't go to them, then the deal you get, as Sean said, you're not going to get the same deal. He talked about how somebody held back, the FBI figured they held back 5%. They threw the book at that person. They got 23 years. There was a debate back and forth. What are we going to do? And this guy's like, nah, I mean, he held back, and we told him, are you holding anything back? Is this 100%? Oh, here's the person. Jen McCobb. I love it. And we're going to get to you, Cat Lady, here. Thank you for the blessings. Every one of you, thank you for the blessings. This is the first year that CAB is going to pay for itself, because we have funded it up to now. Here's somebody right here. Somebody hold back 5%. It's over. Yeah, I know. Sean said that. If they find out that you held something back, the deal that you cut in it has to be full and complete with nothing held back. I wanted to ask you about this, Mike, because this is something that's been bothering me since that trial. And it had to do with the extraction of the data from Jen's vehicle. And Kim this week, Nurse Kim, whom we all love here, was talking about the key cycles. And it was either Trooper Paul or Guarino that extracted the data. Can you clue me in which one it was? Was it Trooper Guarino? The extracted data. So It was Guarino. I'm sorry. Yeah, the brilliant accident reconstructionist, Trooper Paul, wasn't him. But anyway, what he said there was one portion of data when the defense attorneys asked him if he could get it. And this goes back to trust you were talking about a minute ago. He said, if we would have done X, we would have ruined the motherboard on the computer. And immediately, I didn't trust that. Immediately, I said, if you didn't go after that data, it's because you supposed it would reveal something that would be exculpatory for Karen Reed.
Oh, yeah. Guarino,
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, Guarino and Proctor played those games, definitely. Like even with the iPhone, I believe at one point they left out data for the iPhone, like with Jen McCabe's phone, I believe it was. I may be getting it mixed up, but they played games with data like that where they'll just leave out data sets for no reason. Like
Right.
if you're a cop or if you're the state or if you're the defense and you're required to turn over this data and you leave out half the data, why? Why would you do that? Why would you leave out iPhones? Like this is the games that they've been playing. And it's like, no surprise, Guarino's the one that missed all the text that the feds found with Sandra Birchmore. So, like, these guys, I'm sorry, they didn't try hard enough. I don't believe that they tried hard enough. Like, maybe we'll be proved wrong. Maybe we'll find out that they ran into a brick wall and they went to the feds and said, hey, can you help us get this data? Because we have no text from this guy and we think he murdered. I mean, that's what a reasonable detective would do, right? Like maybe the state police are incapable of getting texts that have been erased from a phone. I don't know. Like the feds do have like special tools and special powers, but you would think that if that was the case, they would go to the feds. I don't believe that he did. I don't believe that
I
they
don't believe that.
said, hey, please
I just
investigate
don't.
this. So what's going on? Like, how does Guarino and how do they just say, you know what? You erased your text. You're obviously not guilty. Like that's pretty much what they did. Like you would think if they came to me and it was my girlfriend who was found suspiciously hung, you know what I mean? Like just pretend it was me instead of Matthew Farwell. If that had been me and it had been my girlfriend and I was married, so I was cheating, which makes even more obviously a conflict there in your life. And I said, here's my phone, but all my text messages are erased. They would have said, oh, okay. They wouldn't have done that.
No,
So what are the feds investigating? So I think it's much more than Matthew Farwell. And we had Todd McGee on. I don't know if you heard that interview. He's a former state police guy.
You've had him on multiple times, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
and
I've heard.
Like one of the first times with Better Out, he said something like to the effect, like he felt like that the suspension of Proctor was more than just the text messages that we've seen. Like, and he's not saying this with any inside information on what's going on. He doesn't know, but he's just speculating based on his institutional instinct on what he knows how things operate and the way that they're acting. He feels like there's a lot more to this. And I feel like that on Sandra Birchmore. Like it's so obvious that there was a cover up here, and the Fed's got to be. I guarantee you they've pulled everyone's info, and there was something that I mentioned today, and it came up today at the standout outside of the Camp Police. Gentleman said to me, you gotta start, continue to talk about what happened with the state senator Brian Joyce, who basically was found dead. And Brian Joyce was under like federal indictment. And there was like a lot of investigations going on about his corruption. And he was a state senator at the same time as Michael Morrissey. And they were buddies. And they were even quoted in the newspaper, like, these guys were state senators in the same area at the same time, hanging out with the same people, the same party, the same everything. And one is wicked corrupt and got caught being corrupt. The feds charged him. There would have been a lot more unearthing, and then the guy ends up dead. And again, Norfolk County, nothing to see. There was another woman who was a young lady who was underage sex, essayed by a rich developer that basically did the marina there, where everyone, he's one of the richest developers in Quincy. And his whole family has been like arrested for all kinds of crazy stuff like violence. And they always seem to get off. And then the young woman ends up dead in a car accident. Like, and it's just a lot of stuff like that where this developer was a friend of Morrissey, giving money to Morrissey. I just want like I think the feds have been looking at Morrissey for a long time. Like even before they got the tip off of Karen Reed. I think they've had their eye on the corruption in this Norfolk County. And I think it's been stifled a couple times. I think Brian Joyce was like they were like, we're gonna get these guys, we're gonna get them all. And it's gonna start with Brian Joyce. And then Brian Joyce ends up dead. So
I'm gonna have to look into that because I Suzanne, who's in the chat, who's another. We may have Suzanne on Tuesday with JFK. We got to see if we can sort that all out.
yeah, the rich developer, someone said his name, it's O'Connell, just the name of the family. People know that, the O'Connell family from Quincy. Look into them.
Yeah.
Quincy,
I will.
real estate developer O'Connell. See all the news stories that come up on this family and the stuff that they've been. And this is the marina where Morrissey has his boat. And this is where I think probably Berkowitz probably has his boat there too. Like these guys all hang out in the same circle.
And Bev probably.
I'm sure, I don't know if Bev has a boat, but
I don't trust her. I
don't either. I mean, she's got a connection to Morrissey too. Like her mother and Morrissey's mother worked together. Morrissey's mother was their boss or something like that.
At the cafeteria, school cafeteria stuff. Yeah.
Can't make it up.
No, and so the cat lady says here, can we have a moment for the MSP recruit? This is, I saw his name. It looked like a Latino gentleman that died. He was murdered?
It looks that way. I mean, it looks that way. I mean,
really?
We don't know for sure, but they're talking about broken vertebrae. Like we don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say he was murdered because I definitely don't have enough information, but this does not look good. The family feels like there's more to this than there's. He said it was like a boxing training accident. It looks like much more than that.
Yeah, you usually don't break vertebrae in boxing.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. I want to spend about 15 minutes. If you have questions for Mike, put them in all caps. We'll get him to him. And we want to make sure we're off air in time for Turtle Boy. We got Turtle Boy at 9 p.m. Eastern. So we'll all be watching
he on
that.
Tonight, definitely?
I don't know. I assume this is his normal schedule.
But he kind of had an off week. That's why I'm wondering if sometimes he moves back a day on Sunday. But I don't know. I have no idea.
And please take a break, Mike. Please take a break. Take a break. If you need a vacation, take a vacation. We will hold down the fort until you get back, and we will applaud you when you come back.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to need I'm just, a little slow down, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, now we got to start looking into this. If somebody can tell us when that recruit was died, I would like to know. I saw that. I'm going to have to dig into that because I saw it on Twitter today. It was a little bit of a busy day. Yes, Aiden is on at 9, says Donna Edwards. Thank you, Donna. So, yes. So, if you got questions, Mike breaks daily puff, puff, walk. That's not a break. We're talking about where he can relax and
but that's
lay in the sand.
They do have a point. They do have a point. That's the people like, how come you never take it? Like, a lot of my customers and my dog walk customers, she used to say, how come you never take a vacation? How come you never take a day off? I'm like, oh, I got my break every day.
It's wonderful. I love what you do. I've shared my pets and everything with Mike. Probably he's like, oh man, another idiot sending me his pets. But anyway,
I love no. Anytime someone, like, I may not respond to it because I do get a lot of dog and cat pictures, but
I'm sure
I love every single. How can you not? I just like I tripped over Wendell today. What a beautiful dog that I've met before, and he got scared of me after. It made me sad, but he's such a good dog, Wendell. There's so many good dogs today that we met. It was amazing to see people bringing their dogs today.
Much love. That is awesome. And you make sure they have water and those dogs are staying hydrated, Mike. You
right. Make sure they get a break. Like, that's what kills me is these people that like, oh, my dog can hold it for 12 hours. You might be able to hold it for 12 hours, but would you? And it's not good for you. So make sure your dogs get to go out.
Treat your dog like you would want to be treated, stupid.
Yeah.
Don't be brain dead. All right.
It will harm your dog. It will definitely harm your dog.
Yes. They should not have to hold it. So Friday the 13th is when that officer passed, Officer Garcia. So yeah, we're gonna have to look into something else. We're gonna have to look into, but yeah, God willing, that something will happen and they will arrest one of these jackasses, and then that person will turn on all of them, and that's why they need to be very strategic. I also want to say I don't believe that the Mass State Police weren't able to recover those texts. I believe they were able to recover whatever text that they wanted and needed to. And I find it interesting. Who is the person that is fighting against them getting Trooper Proctor's? Is that the Commonwealth that don't want they don't want his work phone to be released?
I don't think that's quite correct. I mean, I think they're basically saying, well, I mean, technically it is. You're right, but they're saying, and I think there's some reasoning to it. Like they can't just release everything because it would affect so many cases.
You don't have to, but you don't have to, right? You don't have to. They can release what's not privilege or what's PII or any of those kinds of things. But it's a good excuse.
Bettero talked about this on the show. He said that I think he said this. He said something to the effect that they're trying to like make it like they can't figure it out, which is bullshit. So they are making excuses. They're basically, they're playing games. They are.
In every situation, they lie, and I don't give them. My co-host Nathan, who I know you would love to meet because he is an amazing orator and thinker, many multitudes better than me in both areas, and he likes to say, to be charitable with people when somebody does fall or when they do make a mistake or when they do misspeak. He's very charitable with people, and he's a wonderful human being. But I don't give that charity into these guys. And the reason is because I just don't believe them. I think they lie in every situation. They cover, we can't give up his phone because there's so much. Well, release what's not PII, and you say you're going to get somebody independent. Who's that independent person going to be? Is it going to be like Judge Bev's cousin or somebody? Who is going to be that independent person? I mean, I was telling Suzanne yesterday, I heard a Massachusetts lawyer on one of these podcasts, and she's like, oh, yeah. She's like, you know what? Judge Bev, she is great. I'm going to tell you something. Defense attorneys in the Commonwealth and in Norfolk County, they love having Judge Bev. She's because they know they're going to get I'm like, are you kidding me? Get the out of here. We don't believe you. And even if that were true, and I don't think it's true, I think she's someone who wants favor with Judge Bev or knows her or knows someone in her circle. Even if that were true, it doesn't excuse what she's done in this case. And Microdots pointed it out to a degree that hurts my soul.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, because I've heard the same things about Judge Bev Cano locally from lawyers. They think she's good, but it's like, how could she be so bad on this one? Like, that even raises even my eyebrows even more. Like, you mean she's not always this way?
There's something she doesn't like about, obviously she does not like this defense team, and obviously she doesn't like Karen Reed, and obviously she's not impartial. And even with Mark, I quibbled with Mark when he said, Judge Bev's going to be upset. They bring this motion to their court, speaking about the prosecution.
Yeah, she wasn't. She yelled at Jackson.
No,
instead she yelled at Jackson.
She wants to be here. She could recuse herself and say, you know what? I'm going to go and take the run-of-the-mill trials and go hang out at my beach house at the Cape. She wants to be here to put her thumb. She's, it's like the Rolling Stones. She has Karen Reed in the defense team under her thumb, and that's where she wants it. She won't recuse herself, and I'll bet my retirement on that.
Remember with the Barrett video, Bettero was like, Bev, Judge Cano should like read them the riot act the next morning. The prosecution about the Merritt video. We expected it because Bettero is usually right. Bettero is usually right. He's like predicted a lot of things on our show. And he said, Judge Canone should read the riot act to the prosecution and rip Lally a new a-hole and ask all kinds of questions about how this mirrored video was submitted. Did you know? How could you do this? And instead, what did she do? She yelled at Alan Jackson again. Like she didn't give Lally any shit about the mirrored video. So
I mean, I asked Mark,
that's how
could he?
There is something up with her. I don't know.
There's no question. I asked Mark if he could make. I said, Mark, could you go before the court and make an argument for a Brady violation? And he said, no question. This is what. This is. I mean, this and some of these other. This is how Alec Baldwin got off.
Yeah.
In New Mexico.
Yep.
I mean, but she is cheering for the prosecution, and it makes me sound like a conspiracy theorist. And I don't like conspiracy theorists. I shouldn't say that. I don't engage in conspiracy theories. And when someone is a conspiracy theorist to the degree that everything they hear is a conspiracy, I'm like, you're not an objective person. And if you're in that rabbit hole, you will always be there. But that is exactly what we have here.
Yeah.
That is,
facts matter. I mean, I know people who, let's just say like a family of a judge. Let's just say that, right? Someone I know who, was like, watching this whole thing and said, oh, the judge is fine. The judge is fine. Judges do the right thing. You know what I mean? Like that mindset, because that's what they know.
Yeah.
End of the trial, they said something's wrong with this judge.
No question.
Like that's someone that's like very pro judge, like just because of their family member. You know what I mean? Like even they saw it. Like there's something not right with Bev.
Yeah, she for whatever reason is leaning to the prosecution, and I just don't understand why. But let me get to the cat lady. Thank you very much for another blessing, Miss Cat Lady. I think you and I have also talked on Twitter. So it's at Enrique Delgado Garcia. He had severe brain trauma, teeth knocked out, broken vertebrae. And this happened yesterday.
Friday.
I mean, what is going on here, man? I mean, this doesn't happen in Ranger School. So how the hell is this happening at the police academy? I don't know.
They've had a lot of issues at that police academy too. For years, they've been talking about how to fix it, reform it.
Yeah, Peter that's why Peter wanted to ask. He had some questions. He's been trying to contact some people who are active duty police officers now that over this issue to find out what's going on in training, what's not happening. I'd like for a second. I don't know if we have any questions for Mike, so I do have one. So just watch the priest trial motion. They were all against the defense. No question, Becca. I mean, that is what Microdots pointed out, and it was excruciating. I had to turn it off because I was at the gym working out, and it just made me angry. It's where's the camera footage? Exactly. Turtle Boy identified both those houses across the street that have the camera. I hate to say one of my teammates was is a friend of was it Kelleher, Lieutenant Kelleher?
I know him
no?
Too. Yeah.
Do you know him?
I went to Bridgewater State with him. I used to drink beer with him. My roommate played the same position the same year. You know what I mean? They were like we were all like freshmen together, and he basically played the same position on a football team as my roommate. So Kelleher used to come over and we used to have some beers together. Like I know Tommy. He's a good guy.
You and I'll have to talk off.
I haven't talked to him in years. You know what I'm saying?
But there's something related that. But in any case, him not having the video. How do you go to sleep at night, Mike? If you have that video, and you watch that damn video, and that guy get out of the car, and walk away from the car and watch her pull away.
I gotta say though, we don't know he had the video. I mean, I get why people are question that. And maybe it's just because I have that personal thing with Tommy. I like Tommy, like growing up, like when we were in college. I thought he was a good kid. But I guess I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because I have a Ring camera out here and it's not always turned on. Number one. And number two, like it depends on how you have that set. You know what I mean? So I don't know how if there's a lot of cars coming through, maybe he doesn't have it set on the street. Some people just have the motion activated when it gets at a certain part of the screen. So I don't know. I mean, I think there is something funny to it, but I don't want to say that we know he captured what happened because we really don't know. Like we never know how those cameras work.
But remember, I told you how I assume the worst because of the players involved.
I get it.
So I have to go that way.
I do too.
Because of the solo cups and the bag, right?
Yeah.
So you gave them.
I mean, I think he must know something's up. Yeah. If you look at Tommy Kelleher too, like we haven't seen him anywhere. Like he's like Brian, like out of all the Rafferty's kind of disappeared now too, but like out of all of them, like the ones we haven't seen, like Turtle Boy talks about, is Brian Albert disappeared the most, and you got Tommy Kelleher, and then you got the other police chief Wiggum there, where the guy who retired, the former police chief. Like they've all kind of like they're ghosts. It almost makes you think that they know something's up, so they don't want to be seen.
Let me ask you something, Mike, and I don't want to impugn your friend again. I have a third-party connection. Like I said, one of my.
I'm not gonna. I think I want to say that too. Like I wouldn't consider Tom a friend so much, even though I probably use that word. He's a guy I knew in college that I had a couple beers with. You know what I mean? I liked him. He's a good guy. A friend. I think a friend is someone you talk to in 20 years since then. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
No, absolutely. Maybe it was a good guy. Might be the right word because if he gave. So, tell me, in your opinion, why did he give them solo cups and a Stop and Shop bag to collect evidence instead of getting on scene as a lieutenant and going, what the hell is going on here? Get the tent in here, secure this scene. We have a Boston cop that may be dead here. And so why does a good man not do that?
I think you made a good point. You know?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like they ghosted. They didn't want to be associated. They were like, if this blows up, I don't want to be the guy who's holding the bag, so to speak. You know what I mean?
No pun intended.
I mean, I could also see where he could say, especially with Kelleher living across the street, there's a conflict of interest here. So I'm going to back off because I'm the next door neighbor. You know, I could see that. But at the same time, wasn't he the assistant? I don't know if he was. He was the assistant chief?
He was the lieutenant. So I've spoken about this with Peter Murphy.
Yeah.
And he said that he was the lieutenant at the time. And I guess I don't know if he's assistant chief now or deputy chief now.
The deputy now, yeah.
But he was the lieutenant at the time. So you're going to tell me this guy he knows Brian Albert. So you're going to tell me that if that was Brian Smith, that he doesn't, and there's a Boston cop laying there, he doesn't come out of his house.
Yeah, you're right.
And go over there and here's a Stop and Shop. Hey, where the hell's your gloves, guys? Where the hell are your Ziploc bags? Where's your gauze? Where's your tweezers? Where's the tent? Where's the space heater so we can melt the snow instead of a backpack?
Or just about like, don't touch anything. Let's get the state police here immediately.
Well, until he passed, it wasn't their case. It wasn't their case, according to until he died. It wasn't there. But so those things didn't happen.
Doesn't that seem weird though? You get a Boston police officer near death, and you're not going to call the state police until he's dead. Like that just.
I'm sure they did. I mean, I'm sure Brian Higgins was aware of any and all calls that were made. Oh, I went back to move my car at Canton Police Department. Dude, do you think we're stupid? You think you get done drinking after a night of drinking with the boys and you're going to go to work? Who the hell does that?
Who stays
there?
We've all figured out why he probably went back there, right? You know why he went back there?
so he could see what was going on. Listen to the well, he has the scanner, but just see what the scuttlebutt was
You
that
talk
wasn't
to
on the
people in the
radio.
hallway. You hear a lot when you're there.
Yeah, and it's like, Mike, if you and I are partying one night and we go out and we have some wings and beers and maybe even there's an after party and I leave, I'm not then calling you 2 hours later at 2:30 in the morning to call you. I'm not calling you again. We'll talk if we got to talk about it'll be the next day, man, that was fun. They can't explain why that happened. That's why he had the butt dial. The butt dial that was called and the butt dial the whole thing. And you don't think this guy has a camera trained on Brian Albert's house and what kind of shenanigans and chicanery's gone over there? Of course he had video. And he has no excuse for not exiting his house, because if it was Brian Smith, he would have came out of his house. He probably would have put a vest, a police vest or jacket and hung his badge around his neck. And he would have went and knocked on that damn door and said, what happened here?
Yeah.
And because when you listen to the Vegas cops that came on with you and that were on with Sean,
they were like, we would get in no matter what. We'd find a way to get in there.
Well, they cited a law that could have let them at least look around. And
they would have been asking, and they would have gotten in. They find a way in.
So now you know why I don't trust these people? That's why I don't trust them. Is because nobody did the right thing. And it all started, where would we be, Mike, if this happened, if there was a fight in the basement of this guy's house with whomever, and I don't know, and I don't want to say I don't care, but it's immaterial who John got in a fight with. Why don't you just call 911? Call 911, have the ambulance come, put pressure on the guy's wound with a towel and a Stop and Shop bag or something, and the guy lives, and then you go to work and you call the we talked about this. You call the duty desk at the Boston BPD. You tell them what happened, and then you go and you beg for mercy the next day. And what happens? You're reprimanded, right? And then there's some sort of an inquiry, but you're not fired. Obviously, you're not going to be fired. And John O'Keefe maybe files a complaint, but the union gets a hold of him, and he's pissed, and they never talk again, and he recovers, and he goes back to work. But instead, he couldn't call 911. Why didn't he call 911 when the injury happened, regardless of who hit the guy and how? A fight got out of hand. There's a bunch of drunk people, and a fight got out of hand. Why didn't he call 911?
I think there's a pattern here of people getting away with stuff. So I think that's why they don't call 911. They're just used to fixing things and getting away with things. And I think that if it hadn't been for Turtle Boy and these attorneys and everyone else, they probably would have gotten away with it, like they always get away with it. So that's what I think, that they know how to work the system. And I think that's pretty clear at this point, because we watch them do that over and over again. They are operators. They know how the system works. They know who to call. They know where all the bodies are buried. They know who's done what for who.
Yeah, I mean, in the mindset. So now I want to place you into CPD right now. What is it? If you know from the hallways, that something's happened, and this woman didn't do it, and you may be aware that Officer Barrows said that there was a cracked taillight with a piece that fell down inside, and that having watched the trial, which everybody saw, that they smashed the hell out of that taillight. How do you justify that in your mind?
Maybe you don't.
Mindset?
I know that there was at least, Sean had talked about this in the bad. There was somebody apparently that left Canton Police shortly after. So maybe you find another job with a different police department, and then you go talk to the feds. I mean, who knows, right? I mean, The Fed spent this. One of the things that was shocking, a couple things that were shocking to me recently, that we found out the Fed spent $500,000 on ARCA. That's a big investment, even for the FBI. Like
A
that
lot of money.
shows,
Yeah.
yeah, that they obviously didn't trust what was going on, that they were willing to spend $500,000,000 to find out what actually is going on. So they obviously don't trust the DA's office and Canton Police. And just like this week with Kevin Albert getting his job back,
Yeah.
I got to think if
No
you're
shame.
Michael Proctor right now, who isn't going to get his job back, you got to be thinking about talking too, because they're not. Michael Proctor's getting screwed. He's done. Where Kevin Albert,
Mhm.
his life is going to move on, and we
Yeah.
don't even know from the Canton Police or the Select Board. They said they hired a third-party independent investigator of this. Who
Yeah.
was it? Who got hired as a third-party investigator? And
Judge
is
Beth's
there a
cousin-in-law.
report? Why? Like in most cases where you have a scandal like this, you have to hire a third-party investigator. Usually, what happens in most towns that aren't corrupt shitholes like Canton, Massachusetts, with the crappy select board and the police chief who are like Mickey Mouse show, usually they'll post it up and say, hey, this is what we can release to the public from the third party investigation. None of that. We have no information. We don't know what they investigated. We don't know what he did. We don't know what the police chief did. We don't know who even investigated. Like there is no information coming from them. It's so shady. And I just think that at this point, you would think that they would actually get a clue and actually do things a little more professionally, especially when you have the FBI there. But again, I think it's there's a reason for that, right? They're still in
Yeah.
cover-up mode. It's like Watergate. It's like we can't talk because we're afraid you'll find out what we did. So we can't even release basic information.
Yeah. I think that I think what's going to happen though is hopefully is that in this case one of these guys like Proctor, I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what he's making as a PI. If this is going to make him turn. I want to make sure I star this for your thing. But yeah, if you want to get at Mike Crawford and make a donation to his efforts, which go farther and wider and deeper and have gone on for a longer period of time, then you can see Cash App. It is Mike Crawford D1. And then Venmo, it is Mike Crawford TYJ. And we'll at the end. Julie's got your information that I can put up on the screen. Plus, all the show notes for this podcast will have everything that Mike has on his LinkedIn. So let me get that out there right now. So yeah, I like to think that that there is something that they can do that the Crash Daddies, if they're engaged again. And one of the things, Mike, I wanted to pass by you, and you guys if you got questions for Mike, you got about 7 minutes to get him in there. I think that they should get a like vehicle. I think that they should have one of those, and I'm not trying to be funny here, a crash dummy that they use that is made of the biological like material. Often they'll put animal guts inside, and it's made of a certain type of construction whereby that it is as pliable and as rigid as a human body, and it has a sort of exoskeleton that keeps it taut. And I believe that they should hit that they should put that arm at 90 degrees or whatever they assert, and then they should back a Lexus 470 up into it going approximately 24 miles an hour and see what kind of damage that they can extract from that dummy. What do you think about that? I don't think the glass thing was convincing. And I have another question
Who
to
do
ask
you
you about the
think should
glass.
do
but,
that?
yeah.
Would you say you think
Crash
who?
Daddies.
Oh,
Crash
Crash.
Daddies.
I mean, I think they would
Yeah.
love to do that, but I mean, who's going to fund it? You know what I mean? They're not just going to do something because. So it would
I
be
know
the
who's gonna
Fed's going
fund
to pay
it.
for that.
The FBI
Yeah.
come to praise his
I mean,
name.
if the FBI, I would love to see the FBI do that, but I don't think they have an interest in it. Like I think that their priorities are different. I think it's about gathering evidence for them through testimony and other, electronics and building a case. And I don't know if that's going to help their case. Like I don't know.
Do
I
you
think the
think?
defense would love something like that, but
Yeah,
I don't think the defense has enough money to pay for something like that, and I think it might hurt. The best thing about ARCA, beyond how awesome they are, like how
yeah,
they're the best at what they do,
yeah.
is that the defense didn't pay for them. Karen Reed didn't pay for their information.
That's right.
So I think that if they were going to give ARCA money, they would probably be worried that would hurt their credibility with the jury, especially since that came up in Turtle Boy's interview. So I think that probably won't happen. But I think if the defense can afford something like that, to hire maybe another third
party. Yeah.
accident reconstruction group that's just as good as ARCA, I think that they probably would do that. But I don't know how much that costs. And I imagine money is probably an issue at this point. So I think people should definitely donate. FreeKarenReed.net if you want to donate and support Karen Reed. I think that would help. And I think that the state are the ones who should try to come up with something. They have nothing. Obviously, they can't bring up Proctor again. They're probably not going to bring up Guarino. They're probably not going to bring up Bukaki again. I mean, they're losing their best witnesses, apparently. I mean, maybe they bring up Buchanan, but I just have a feeling that Buchanan and Tully are going to even get into some trouble here, too. So, but we know Proctor and Trooper Paul, you can't bring them up again. So what are you going to do? They're going to have to hire somebody. They need to find somebody.
Mike, how can you bring Guarino when he supposedly missed, but he didn't miss the 30,000 texts? I know he. I know he actually. He knows those texts exist.
They can't bring them up. Those three are done.
He knows those texts exist. He knows that. He just elected not to find them because, like I said, every time you think somebody could do the right thing, they're not going to do the right thing. The only way. How do we get Trooper Proctor's personal cell? That probably came from the feds, right? How do we? I know we didn't get it from the prosecution. That's for sure.
Exactly.
So it's
the feds are invested in this. That's one of the things I've counted on. A couple things for me, like I took a break because I was freaking out with the pressure, and I started even doubting everything. And it got back to two things, like the feds, number one, but the big thing is the car. The car and John O'Keefe's body. It doesn't match. It just doesn't. There's I'm not a accident reconstruction guy, but just logically looking at it, I could see what ARCA could see, and then ARCA obviously takes it to another level. They're looking at stuff that I can't even comprehend. So on a basic level and even a complex level, the accident, the car doesn't match the body, and so she's innocent. End of story. Everything else doesn't, that's what I always come back to on this.
If it looks like a duck,
it's
a friggin' duck. It's a friggin' duck.
Like a duck.
All right, and on
I
that
want to know
note,
if Chris Albert is upset right now. Is Chris Albert
Chrissy,
file witness intimidation charge against us because I'm showing a duck? And the duck says on the bottom, it says, what does it say? It says IYKYK. I think it means if you know, you know.
You know? Chrissy, let me tell you something. Man.
Apparently is witness intimidation. That gets the Mass State Police sent to your house. And Brian Tully gets warrants and subpoenas to search your vehicles and your house and your business.
For rubber.
Chris Albert got upset because you gave out some rubber ducks to people. That was a guy I talked to today. Good guy. I think he's in the chat. I think I saw him commenting. I didn't give his name out because I wasn't sure if he's comfortable with me putting it out there. But this is the stuff that they're doing. They can't afford to do a real investigation, but they investigate citizens protesting with ducks.
And I want to say something else to as Sean not affectionately calls him Chrissy Albert. You know what? You wouldn't.
Come at me,
I think Mike and I are pretty confident you wouldn't wipe the street with Turtle Boy. And I'm going to tell you something, Sam Nagel, because we found out what your name is. There is no way on God's green earth you would have mouthed off to Turtle Boy if you were in an alley somewhere with no backup.
Yeah, that kid's
You
a
would've-
punk. That kid is such a punk.
You are a puss.
Yeah.
And there is
You know
no
what?
way
You know what
you would have
Sam
mouthed
Nagel
off to
needs?
Turtle Boy.
Like
Not even
50
close.
cross faces to the face.
Oh,
Come
easily.
practice with me, Sam
Oh.
Nagel, for a couple
Oh,
days.
definitely, man. Definitely.
You
Front
won't be
headlock.
so touchy and mouthy, buddy.
Front headlock for days on you.
Yeah.
It's
Oh.
not going to be good. And then I'm trying to
Lateral drop.
lateral drop. That's what I'm
Boom.
looking for. John Jones'
I'll
move,
give
the
him the
lateral
move
drop.
that broke my back.
Yep. Yeah, I'll lateral drop you, and then we'll pass guard, and then it's gonna be
That kid is such
you're
a
gonna be
punk.
crying
When
from
he
mommy.
touched Meredith, that was just such
That-
a sleaze move.
dude,
It's like so demeaning.
That's what showed Sam Nagel what a puss you really are, is because no man would do that, and under no circumstances should you ever go up and touch a woman that way. And if you want to beef up with Turtle Boy, I bet you he will meet you somewhere, and you're not. And when he walks away, you're gonna be looking at the stars or the sunshine.
Yeah.
And you know
I would
that.
not mess
You
with that
know
boy.
that you wouldn't mouth off to that man, Turtle Boy. You know that, and nor would you, Chrissy Albert.
Yeah, what a
Nor
punk
would you.
he is.
Yeah,
too.
any of us.
Chrissy
any
Albert
of
is
us.
such a punk. He
Oh,
is such a little
let's-
weasel, a little man,
Yeah.
little Chrissy.
Little Chrissy needs all those people. Yeah, I wiped the floor with you, Turtle Boy.
Yeah,
Drag you
he's
down
such
the
a
street.
fake
Yeah,
tough guy.
sure.
He's
Sure.
such a fake tough guy.
Sure. That's why, yeah. And even your fake tough guy brother. Anyway, I don't even want to get into it because I'll get into that whole
We're
rant.
getting
where
fired
people-
up, aren't we?
Yeah, they're referring to Brian Albers, an MMA fighter. I got news for you, man. He's not an MMA fighter, and he's not a boxer. Because you train MMA, like I've trained MMA, I'm not an MMA fighter. I know MMA fighters, and you are not one of them, Brian. And
Yeah.
because you train boxing does not mean you're a boxer.
Yeah, I think
either.
Brian Albert
You're a
was probably
sucker
like
punch
me.
guy.
I think Brian Albert was a decent wrestler in high school. Like I think that I heard he wrestled. Did he wrestle? Brian Albert did.
I don't
think
know.
He did. I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure
know
he
if he did
wrestled
or
in
not.
high school. I heard he was an okay wrestler, but like me, MMA wasn't big when I was like at my peak in wrestling. I would have gone into MMA. I probably would have gone into MMA over college actually. Like, but I'm glad. It probably saved my life not having MMA back then. I would have been drunk and fighting.
rough, man.
I would have.
It's
I
like,
would have done it. I definitely because I was crazy. But
you've
I was
got
never
your-
an MMA fighter. That's a level that
It's a whole nother.
especially
yeah.
professionally, it's
Yeah.
another level that just even boxing. Like I used to watch Peter McNeely box.
Yeah,
Like,
just
it's
being in the
that's a
just being in the
different
room
level.
with those guys, you have a wrestling cardio, and you're using that cardio, and then all of a sudden you have to stand up, and now your hands have to come into it, and that's the most difficult thing. Now you have to the boxing cardio, and then there's kicks. I remember seeing one of my training partners. He was a wrestler from California, and one of my other training partners leg kicked him so hard, and he was in. He was in so much pain. It's just so there's all these different things, and if you listen to the Randy Couture's and the Chael Sonnens, they'll tell you their journey from going from wrestler into being able
it's
to
definitely
absorb
not the
leg
same.
kicks
That- it's funny
being able to
'cause
strike and move your head.
Mazza
And,
came to the rally today and he had a big bandage on his neck.
Mhm.
And I was like, what the hell is that? He's like, oh, I was sparring in
He's
karate with it. I'm like, what? What? You got a bruise on your neck from karate? Like,
dude, oh man,
you don't
have you
get
seen
that from
Steve?
wrestling. I don't know.
Have you seen? Well, GSP obviously was a very famous karate fighter who then got into wrestling and used to wrestle with the Canadian national team, and that's how he got to take down Matt Hughes, who was a 4-year wrestler for the Illini, and then Stephen Wonderboy Thompson from South Carolina. Oh my God, he is maybe the best karate fighter ever in MMA and certainly in the UFC. And man, some of the strikes that those guys can deliver. And then he also had to learn BJJ. His sister married a black belt in BJJ, so he got into that. And then obviously, Chris Weidman from Chris Weidman moved to South Carolina and really helped Wonderboy with his wrestling. So amazing. He was 57-0 in kickboxing. 57-0. Anyway,
That's a run. I bet he.
It is.
Yeah. I bet you. It's funny because I had a little run in high school where I was like, won like 15 matches in a row, and you start like freaking out, like you're like, I'm gonna lose, I'm gonna lose. Like every week you're shitting like your streak's gonna end, and then it ends. It always ends eventually.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, Mike. You're not only a great wrestler and a great content creator and a great advocate for justice, but you're a great human being. And I'm honored that you and delighted that you came on tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, DJ. It's been fun. It went by very quickly.
It
Yeah,
did, man.
it
We could
did.
do a whole one on music. Mike and I can
We
do one on
could.
music.
We could.
You guys can tell us your favorite bands and all your
Favorite
stories from concerts.
songs. Yeah.
Yes,
I got another
absolutely.
one. I'll go back to
Go ahead.
I got a
Go
couple more
ahead.
Boston acts I love. Like I said, I love
Okay.
Jay Giles.
hmm
These are Boston acts that people might know, but Morphine. Do you know about Morphine?
No, that's I
Oh,
like the name though.
they were
Wow.
huge for a minute, and then he died. Mark Sandman. He had a band before them called Treat Her Right, which was amazing too. But they got signed to DreamWorks. You've probably heard some of their music on the radio. They still play it. Morphine is phenomenal. I love Morphine. Another one, totally different style. Mighty Mighty Bosstones. Love them from Boston. I'll
Yes,
give
I
you another
remember
one.
them. Yes.
Yeah, Boston. And then like I'm going all the different styles here. The Cars. I like the Cars. The
Oh
Cars are
my
great.
God. Oh my God.
These are the
They are
Boston
like
bands.
Hall
Like,
of Fame. They are
yeah.
Hall of Fame, man. Hall of Fame.
And I go back to Boston. New Edition.
Oh,
I
another
like New
one.
Edition. I like
I've
New Kids on the Block too.
yes,
It's like I
absolutely,
like the
man.
Boston.
I
I like I like almost anything
What
from
about
Boston.
Boston
It's funny.
itself? What about the
I
band
like them.
Boston?
Brad Delp. He
That's
actually
it?
graduated from high school with my mom.
But I
So
mean,
they
where do
same.
you I
My
mean,
mom and dad.
how
I think. Yeah, my mom and dad went to high school with
wow.
him with the singer. Yeah, Brad Delp.
He was amazing. I believe
Danvers High
he
School.
he unalived himself, as Nurse Kim would say. But
Unfortunately.
what an
He's a
amazing
wicked nice
voice.
guy too. He's a
Yeah,
really good guy. Brad Delp was.
great band, unmistakable sound. Thanks to Tom Schultz, the MIT graduate and guitar player. So we got this from Romy, and this is the last question. Romy, I want to thank you once again. You've been so generous with our show and with other people's shows, and thank you so much for the blessing. I really appreciate it. Mike, so here you go. Do you know if Jen McCobb went to Officer John O'Keefe's funeral? I've heard a few times she didn't, but I don't know if it's true. Suzanne, also Roger up in the chat if you know the answer to this one.
I don't know on that. I'm sure she must have been, but I don't know.
Yeah, I would assume that that for appearances she would have done that. So let me just see in the chat if anyone's there. If anyone knows she didn't, Rosemary Gallagher says no, she didn't. So yeah, it sounds like Romy that she did not go. But yeah, it's pretty disgusting the way she said, "There's a man on the lawn at 34th Avenue." And the way that how'd I do with the accent? I did pretty good.
You did good.
Friends. Good,
You did
thank you,
good.
sir. I need
Now,
that.
I love them seeing Boston bands thrown out in the chat. Someone said the Fools. I love the Fools. I booked them once for the Freedom Rally. I got an uncle that's friends with one of the Fools. Right now, my family that's the Fools is the band like my parents liked and the kids liked them. Like we all like them. They're like the Fools are great. I love them. Any of those bands from Boston, like the garage bands too. I know the Fools were a little more comedy too, but like so many like people talk about the Atlantics, I learned so much of the music from my girlfriend too, like the band she plays. I also like the hardcore, like SSD from Boston. They were great. And like Gang Green. I said Tree earlier. There's been so many good. I love Boston. I love Boston music and
I love Boston too. I can't wait to land in Boston August 25th and 26th. I'm gonna be there, baby. Mike,
can't wait. I hope you say hi.
I
Hopefully
hope so, man.
Hopefully you have time for your Dean College. Is it reunion time? Is that why you're here?
It's homecoming, so I started like a team reunion, and then we go and have dinner at Rome Restaurant in Franklin, and then we go to the game the next day. So I'll show up Friday night, and then I'll leave Saturday night. So, all right,
great. That'll be fun.
Read this one, brother, right here.
Which one? I heard
it's on the screen.
pizza
Yeah.
every time the Canton Police Department would do drug bust or pulling a car over with drugs. The D&E would sell for money at the back door. That's why Chris didn't want employees parking it back.
Wow.
I mean,
That
I'm gonna
is.
say that's a rumor.
I'm
It's
gonna
a
say
rumor.
that.
I've heard all kinds of stuff about that. I can't confirm anything. If anyone really has information on that, I would love to speak to if anybody out there like actually bought drugs from them. Like hit me up. Like that's what we need. We need if this stuff is true, we need like to confirm it. Like I hear
And
this
if any,
stuff all the time, but I haven't seen any real confirmation of it. We need real confirmation to go on that stuff.
yeah, we need more than one source. And so if anybody hits me up, I'm gonna direct you to Mike, so he can report it because he's an actual
Yeah.
journalist.
I love 80s music too. I think I like the 90s the best, but I like the 80s too. I'll tell you when I was a little kid too, I liked like the hair metal a lot, like Twisted Sister, all
Oh,
those bands. You name it, I like them. I like this band called Dawkins. I loved. I used to love them. But
oh my
Skid
God.
Row, everybody. I mean, I just so many bands back then.
Rat.
Rat, oh my Rat
Rat.
and Roll. Oh,
Lay it down.
yeah, the best
Lay
Rat
it.
was just that first song. That Round and
Oh
Round
my
is such a
God.
great song.
No, well, listen to Lay It Down.
Lay It
Because
Down was
Lay It
good,
Down.
but
Oh my
Round and
God.
Round is something you can hear that on the radio right now, and it's just a good song that anyone would like average like grandma will like that song.
Can I give you a Twisted Sister song too? And there's a
Yeah,
live version that's really good. The album version's good, but I'm the guy that will look through YouTube to find the best live version of whatever song it is. And there's one called is it called I almost said The Case, which made me think of
the
that.
price, the
The
price,
Price, The
the
Price.
price
Yeah.
you gotta pay. Yeah, I like that
Yeah.
song.
I
That was
love
that was
that
from the
song.
second album, I believe, right? Or third? I don't know what. It was one of
Yeah.
the follow-up albums. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And
I
there
bought that one as a kid. Definitely.
it's
I
good.
saw him too. We met him, but he ran
D.
away from us.
Snyder?
Yeah, we were
Oh
coming
my
back. We were a
God.
bunch of dudes coming back from like Jamaica, and he was at the airport, and he ran away from us because we were so obnoxious. We were like, "I want to rock," and he's like, "F you, I don't want to deal with you."
I
I
love
don't
that.
blame him. I love
But
D. Steiner, and I like what's his name, Sebastian Bach. They're on Twitter. I like them. I follow them on Twitter. They're great.
oh,
Bruce Springsteen. You know, a couple weeks
oh
ago,
wow.
what's his name, Little Steven. I love
Little
Little
Steven,
Steven. I
yeah.
like his activism. I like his music. Little Steven was on Twitter, and he was talking about Howard Stern and Pearl Jam. They were all at the concert together. And I responded. I said, "How was the show?" And next thing you know, Little Steven retweeted and told me how his Pearl Jam show was, and I was just
Oh
like,
wow.
"This is
Wow.
just amazing!" Like I am like so like,
Yeah, Little Steve, Miami Steve Van Zant.
yeah.
That's
Everyone's like,
huge, man.
"Oh,
Yeah.
Silvio." I'm like, no, no, no. I like his radio show. I mean, I like that show, but for me, it's about the rock and roll before the TV
Yeah.
show.
I heard him interviewed about his relationship with Bruce Springsteen. You're talking about like a 50-year friendship.
Yeah.
Here you
How do you
go,
keep that
Julie.
together too? They've had their ups and downs. It just shows you, the type of people they are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I got another one. You guys keep coming up with so much stuff that is prescient that we can't end the show. When
know,
is your
sorry.
next question, Mike? Excuse me. When's your
Next
next
show?
show, Mike?
I
Yeah.
have no idea. That's the thing. Like, I keep saying I'm going to take a break, and then I have something else I have to do at another show. But I
Okay.
don't plan it. Like I always try not to plan ahead, because for me,
Right.
if I plan something ahead and then something else happens and I want to have it on, I don't like to be tied down, And I kind of just like to follow my heart, and I feel like it works for me. Like
Yeah.
I always come up and with my life being so busy too, it's just practicality. It's hard for me to book anything far out. I did it for you with this guest,
I appreciate
thing,
this.
but I don't do it a lot because there's just I have to keep track of a schedule for the dog walk business that I run, and
I love it.
so it's hard. So I never know when I'm doing on the show. Probably Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We'll see. But if
Next
the
week,
best thing,
sometime.
follow
Yeah.
us on the Young Jerks. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on
Yep.
YouTube at the Young Jerks. Follow us and subscribe, and just check it every day. If I haven't done a show in a day or two, I'm probably gonna have a show that night.
Okay, here it is. You can subscribe to the Young Jerks here. All of Mike's stuff will be in the show notes when this comes out on podcast, so you can expect to see all of that. Because I have a guest on, I want everybody to be, if they don't know, I mean, obviously Mike's easy to find and he's popular,
Yeah.
but there are guests who aren't as well known and aren't on all these different platforms. So I'll always put them in the show notes so people can click on that link and go right to their stuff, or at least copy and paste. So,
And I want to thank you too, because I did stream it on our YouTube. I love that when you have me on the show. You let me so I have content for my stream too. People watching over there. I pinned at the top in the YouTube stream for the Young Jerks. If you're watching it there, I pinned at the top a link to your YouTube, Calling All Beings. So I hope anyone that's watching it on our YouTube on the Young Jerks that they click on Calling on Beings and subscribe to YouTube, because you've been supporting us and you've been doing good work. And I hope all of our people watching hit the subscription button for you as well, DJ. Please.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Mike. Yeah, likes and subscribes all around. It helps us to make something back for the software and the subscriptions and all this stuff that we use to create these shows and Canva and everything else. There's one last thing. Prayers for Mr. Garcia, only 25 years old. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, that is the most important thing that we're doing is, Sandra Birchmore, up there, communicating with Mizzy. John O'Keefe, who we lost in this absurd thing that he could have been saved by Brian Albert, the quote first responder, these criminals that are wearing uniforms pretending to be police officers that we love and respect and need. And then we've got a bunch of criminals in these towns and in Canton and the Mass State Police, and they're the exception. They're not the rule, but unfortunately they have. You know what? You got on our radar, and you're going to stay on our radar.
I hope the Garcia family. I really feel bad for them. They were quoted in some news stories that already came out with NBC 10 and some other Spanish-speaking networks. I hope they continue to do press. Like I think they really should consider doing some of these YouTube shows, whether it's Turtle Boy, Sean McDonough, Calling All Beings, my show, The Young Jurist, Nurse Kim. There's so many platforms.
Mm-hmm.
They should definitely do some of these shows, because I think that they need to go out and tell us who. Like, they don't have to tell us all the details on what happened to their son, to their brother, but they should come and tell us who he was, because we're all interested in this, and I know they're grieving, and I know that they're going to find a huge community of people who love them and want to support them. And I think it will help the family. So not to be exploiting, but I think it would be very helpful. And I think it will also cast the spotlight on what's going on. I was very glad to see that 3 of the family members were quoted in that story at NBC, because if they don't speak up, if they don't continue to do what they did, the story's going to go away. The state police doesn't want people to know who your son and your brother was. They don't want to. They want to pretend this never happened. The governor of Massachusetts doesn't want to talk about your son and your brother. So you have to do that. And if you come on these shows, it will blow up. It will blow the F up, and everyone will love you and want to support you. So I'm begging the family. If you want any advice, go do a show. I don't care if it's my show. It would be great if you pick mine.
Dude,
but you pick whoever you feel most comfortable with.
Yeah.
You might feel like you feel most comfortable with Nurse Kim or Sean McDonough or Turtle Boy. We all connect with different people. So pick a show and go do it. Like, I don't even care if your lawyer's telling you not to. Tell your lawyer you're doing the show. And even if you just talk about who he was and what he meant to you, you don't have to talk about the details. If the lawyers don't want you to talk about that, okay. But come out and tell us who he was, because
so that we can so that we can add them to these rallies that Mike and all these folks are leading, and that there's websites now, and so that we can add officer or trainee cadet Garcia to this. So yeah, please contact us, and thank you, Mike, for solidifying that, and all of it. Well, first of all, we have Suzanne, in the chat, all of you investigators out there, see what you can find out about this, because we know that you will find out what happened. And by the way, in terms of what's coming up next, we are planning on potentially having Suzanne and JFK on Tuesday of this coming week, if we can put that together. Suzanne is the basically vice president, if you will, along with Mizzy, of the Justice for Sandra Birchmore organization, and she's an amazing human being, very, very passionate about this in the way that Mizzy is. So I hope we're going to be on Tuesday night for that. And Mike, you just going to have to wait and see, okay? So on behalf of Mike Crawford, this is DJ saying peace out, one love. We'll see you down the road. And, of course, we're always wondering what's up around the bend.